Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter. Hello, fine folks. This is Freedom Fighter, and I'm your host of Goldilocks Global Banking News. Today, Goldilocks is sharing some more information on Iraq's process to go international. And this is also in alignment with the conversation that we had with the CBI last Monday. Before we jump into that, let's jump into some other key important information that Goldilocks is sharing about Iraq. Many of you all may realize that Iraq is a very oil dependent nation. Very oil dependent, meaning their revenue, majority of the revenue, which is 80% of their revenue, comes from oil. Iraq is in the process of diversifying their revenue so that it's not 80% oil and including other revenues that will increase their bottom line. Goldilocks is sharing that exporting countries whose currencies have a strong link to oil prices include Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Nigeria, and Venezuela. According to recent forecasts from organizations like OPEC and the EIA, the demand for oil is expected to slow down in 2025, with several reports indicating a significant reduction in projected oil demand growth compared to previous estimates. Key points that Goldilocks is sharing: that a slowing oil demand in 2025 is lower growth forecast, economic factors, China's impact, price implications as well. Oil is still needed to create electric cars, but electric cars themselves don't use oil to run. So key factors are production, maintenance, charging stations, and so forth and so on. Electric cars don't use oil or gasoline to power the engine because they don't have an internal combustion engine. Instead, they use electricity from a rechargeable battery to power the electric motor. However, hybrid and plug-in hybrid vehicles do use oil because they have an internal combustion engine that needs to be maintained. Why is this so important and relevant, you may say, to Iraq? Little do many know that Iraq imports and exports vehicles. Not only is their oil 80% of their revenue, but a part of the revenue is the imports and exports as well. Iraq is in the process of reforming their banking sector in order to enable them to have other revenue streams besides oil that absolutely impacts the value of the dinar. See, folks, once these reforms are implemented, that gives the world that's literally waiting for Iraq, it gives many countries around the world the ability to move forward and do additional and more trade with Iraq, knowing that Iraq is offering more than just oil as a major revenue stream. In order for Iraq to enter into the World Trade Organization, Iraq had to agree to having other revenue streams besides oil. Without reforms, Goldilocks shares, Iraq's oil boom could turn to a bust. Iraq is very dependent on oil as a revenue, Goldilocks is sharing. This is why we are witnessing current banking reforms going into play to sustain their country going forward outside of oil. Efforts have been made in agriculture and metal markets to stabilize ongoing efforts to grow in capacities beyond oil markets. Remember, a major part, a major component, actually a requirement for Iraq to enter into the World Trade Organization, and they actually qualified, don't forget, is to increase their agricultural imports and exports. And actually, Iraq has signed contracts with the World Trade Organization, other countries which are members, 120 plus countries. Iraq had to agree to contracts for agriculture. Yes, for the World Trade Organization accession. Oil modifications such as what Goldilocks has shared above regarding oil and the modifications meaning to agriculture and other products, it will help Iraq transition into the new economic developments. The revenue gained from the oil market will help Iraq move forward into new venues, but absolutely the other agreements for non-oil will as well. Goldilocks is sharing that going forward, banking reforms are necessary for all of our countries around the world to participate in sharing their most valuable resources with surrounding countries. This is not only necessary for our survival as a nation, but as a global nation. But it's challenges to the banking structures of our time that have become obsolete are a matter of survival for our financial institutions as well. The emergence of a new economy is a vision forward thinking process that will demand external and internal structures on the level of complete transformation of what it means to be a human. Goldilocks is sharing about Iraq and granting a license to practice work as a private joint stock exchange company under Category A in the name of Capital Exchange Company. Now, some of you may recall several months ago where Iraq went through the process of the reclassification of the Iraqi dinar, whereby they moved from a Category C to Category A. A private joint stock exchange company under Category A, it is a privately held company that has shares that are not traded on public stock exchanges. We're going to touch on the Iraqi stock exchange called the ISX in Iraq. It's a national stock exchange, meaning national within Iraq's borders. And it lists only Iraq private joint stock companies. The shares of a private stock company can be transferred from one party to another, but the transfer is only limited by agreement and family members. Remember, this is strictly within Iraq. What Goldilocks is going to share with us, and this was touched on with the CBI as well, is in Iraq's process to go beyond their borders from national to international. The Iraqi stock exchange with Category A notes now in the private sector, yes, is strictly within Iraq. However, this process is moving to where Iraq will go international. Here are some things Goldilocks is sharing to know about the private joint stock companies and shares within Iraq. Ownership of a private stock company is limited to founders, management, employees, and groups of private investors. Think locally within Iraq. Then we're going to see their process to go beyond their borders to go international. These companies have shares, this private stock company. Think of the ISX, the Iraqi Stock Exchange, which we know that many of you have heard about the Iraqi Stock Exchange in Dinar land. It kind of died down for after a while, didn't it? That's okay. We're going to clarify some things. What is this Class A shares of Iraq? Category A. They're common stocks issued by companies when they go public via what's called an initial public offering. Class A shares are often a good choice for long-term investors because they have lower expense ratios and charge upfront fees. They may also be a better option for wealthy investors because they reduce upfront fees for larger investors. Let's get beyond the technical jargon here, ladies and gentlemen. A capital exchange company in the context of foreign currency exchange refers to a company that facilitates the exchange of different currencies, essentially allowing individuals or businesses to convert one currency to another. Think if you are an Iraqi citizen in Iraq, you'll have this ability. It includes often also services such as money transfers. Think of Western Union. Think of MoneyGram. Think of why Iraq in August came to the United States and met with JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, the U.S. Treasury, MoneyGram, and Western Union. Think of the fact that Iraq did the same thing when they met with MoneyGram and Western Union, along with the U.S. Treasury, in April in the United States. Think of the meeting in January in Abu Dhabi, where Iraq met with MoneyGram, Western Union, U.S. Treasury, Federal Reserve, JP Morgan Chase, and Citibank. And Goldilocks reported on the contracts signed and agreed upon by the U.S. Treasury for Iraq to partner with Western Union and MoneyGram. Why? It was for the Category A classification of the dinar with capital exchange companies in preparation for Iraq to eventually go international. Because at the moment, they can only do this privately. Well, in order to go international beyond their borders, for Iraqi citizens throughout the world, and no matter what country they may be domiciled in, whether they're visiting or living, with the Category A classification, it gives those citizens of Iraq and other countries to be able to have certain competitive rates when they exchange the Iraqi dinar for whatever currency they're in the country they are located. That's the benefits of this classification of the Category A for Iraqi citizens. But as per the conversation that we had with the CBI, this also plays a part in their process to prepare to go international. See, a private company can re-register as a public company and offer its shares for sale to the public on a stock exchange. Again, right now, it's only private within Iraq. A public limited company can be significantly involved with foreign currency exchange, especially if it operates internationally and conducts business in multiple currencies, as it needs to convert foreign income. Think of an Iraqi citizen who may be an Iraqi citizen but living in another country. So think of their income and expenses into the Iraqi dinar. This is why this is so important, and Goldilocks is sharing it. As per, this was a part of our discussions with the CBI. Any company doing business across their borders will likely need to use the foreign currency exchange market to manage currency risk. As it pertains to Category A, capital exchange company does allow Iraq to trade on the Iraqi Stock Exchange, with no restrictions on current or capital transactions related to currency exchange, as long as proper documentation is provided. This means Iraqi individuals and businesses can participate in trading on the Iraqi Stock Exchange. But folks, again, Iraq must make sure they take care of Iraq before they can take care of anyone else. This is why the importance of the moving to a category A nationally within Iraq in preparation to go international beyond the Iraqi Stock Exchange. Goldilocks is sharing that yes, foreign currency exchange is allowed for trading on the Iraqi Stock Exchange. The Iraqi Stock Exchange itself does not directly facilitate foreign currency exchanges, but banks operating in Iraq are permitted to engage in foreign currency exchange transactions, allowing the individuals to exchange currencies through the banks of Iraq. Goldilocks is sharing that banks facilitate Forex transactions for clients and conduct speculative trades for their own trading desk within the bank. This, ladies and gentlemen, allows the movement of the dinar from a national, meaning within the borders of Iraq, the national exchange platform, to an international banking system. I'm going to repeat that again. This allows the movement of the dinar that is currently only within its own borders, the national exchange platform, meaning only within the banks of Iraq. This is the process that Iraq is working on to then go international, to where the dinar will move from only nationally within the Iraqi Stock Exchange to go to the international banking system, which is Forex, which is the international means of currency exchange. Goldilocks is stating that the movement from a national exchange, meaning only within the Iraqi borders, the movement from national exchange platform, which is the Iraq Stock Exchange, to a digital international banking system, which is the quantum financial system. This is what allows us to exchange the Iraqi dinar in time. This process of Iraq moving to a category A is a step needed for Iraq to take in order for them to eventually go international. So when you hear and you recognize that Goldilocks is sharing this with you and sharing with us about the category A of the dinar and trading on the Iraq Stock Exchange, this is just the process that they had to take. That is also in connection with other revenue streams besides oil in Iraq. These are all requirements that the World Trade Organization put upon Iraq as reforms to qualify for their full accession into the World Trade Organization. So when you see Goldilocks sharing this, Goldilocks is sharing the process that we also, and I was also blessed to be a part of the conversation with the CBI this past week. We are on track, not only as a nation here in the United States. Iraq is also on track as well to go from their own local borders within their own stock exchange and implementing the reforms that are absolutely required for the World Trade Organization and for Iraq to go international. This is why, in the conversation with the CBI this past Monday, they confirmed their economic reforms in preparation for international standards so that the dinar can eventually go beyond its borders to go international. This is all a part of the process, and we are blessed to witness it and understand it. If you have questions, you're more than welcome to come into the Goldilocks QFS Dialogues room, where we will answer your questions 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be kind, be well, stay grounded, stay in unconditional love. Be well.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter.